So you want to record an audiobook. It could be your writing or someone else's writing, but you've decided that you're going to record this audiobook and you're going to make sure that it is as best as you can make it. So you're going to have to turn your microphone on for starters. Ha, ha, ha. What about equipment? Can you see all the things around me and can you hear me clearly? You can hear me clearly because I've made sure that there are few opportunities for my voice to bounce back to me. I'm running several camera things at the same time. So from the laptop, which is just terrible quality, and then from a Sony camera, but I'm using the audio from a USB microphone. It's all part of an experiment, and it's over $100. It might be about $130. It's from Blue, and it's called the Yeti X. Oh yeah, there it is, written down, the Yeti X. And so this is not the same as the many hundreds of dollars Rode microphone that I have up there. This has 4 sound patterns because inside the microphone there seem to be 4 little microphones, and the patterns can be chosen. I've chosen the third that you see on that list, if I'm reading that correctly. It is this one over my finger. And what that does is it allows the sound in front of the microphone to be the sound. Now, it cuts out sound in the back, and it has a button that you can push quite by accident. It's flush with the body of the microphone, and I can change it just by pushing it like this. Changing it now provides microphones. The availability is in the front and the back. If you're going to have a conversation with someone, that's actually kind of handy for podcasters. You don't want to pick it up, but I'm doing that for the sake of illustration. It should be that now we've cycled through to something that is generally ambient, but it excludes things from the very back. So maybe you would have a director in the very back telling people what they should say or where they should move or if they should be louder or quieter if you're producing something along those lines. And this one should be, sensitive enough to pick up sound from all directions, omnidirectional. So I prefer this unidirectional. Maybe you can hear the sound change when I hit that button. So do you need a microphone that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars? No, but you need to control your environment. Do you need to spend hundreds of dollars controlling your environment? What you want to be able to do is help give yourself the best chance possible to knock out background sounds. My wedding ring, I'm not wearing it because I accidentally tapped the table or the computer mouse. Ideally, you shouldn't have your phone, but I've got kids, and so you never know when your phone is going to ring in case of emergency. So my phone stays, but your phone probably shouldn't. I'm not wearing house shoes. I'm wearing socks because on the floor, whether I'm tapping the table, tapping the floor, it can be extremely distracting, and you might even do it without noticing. So I'm going to use all of this clutter to help baffle the sound. If I were to record this same audio in the room next to this, which has bare walls for the most part, just a few bookshelves and things on the bookshelf, there would be an echo, even though I have adjusted my $130 microphone, let's say, which has a good range. I have a voice that tends to go a little bit deeper, but you can count on a microphone like this for a voice that is higher than mine. Females. Could females use this microphone? Honestly, I don't know. When I fake a female voice, which I don't do often, everything seems to go okay. I sound like a guy faking a girl's voice. And or I sound like perhaps a guy faking a young boy voice. But women, naturally, to catch the entire range of the sound that you're producing for your voice, all of the inflection, all of the delicate, natural stuff that AI cannot imitate because there's emotion involved in your read. Even if it's not an emotional read, you know where the rises and falls of a sentence or paragraph or the arc of an idea should be. You know where the emphasis should be placed. And that, for the time being, simply can't be replicated by AI. I'm kind of glad for that. Here's a 99-cent piece of advice, which is worth more than 99 cents if you're just starting out. When you record, you're going to want to have a point so that you can locate where did you make that mistake when you were reading. When did you say ambivalence instead of ambivalence? Rather than going back and deleting ambivalence and starting all over and trying to catch your sentence and say it again, you just say ambivalence. But then where in your 30 minutes or 13 minutes do you find that mistake to correct? This clicker is a very interesting piece, and it doesn't have to be just like this. This is actually a dog tool, and there are bones around the, whatever it's called, the button, the bezel, or something like that. And then it's just a piece of metal that clicks inside the plastic housing. That's for training dogs, go figure. I don't use it on the kids. Pity. Okay, so that noise that you just heard. You hear the thumping of the keyboard? This is a USB microphone. I don't know if I mentioned that, but for me that was kind of important because the other microphone, the Rode, which is up here, is a very proper professional microphone that has, what is it, XLR, something like that? A super plug, which I can't focus on. It has that. Once it sees my face, it's just fixated. Audacity 3.42 or something similar to that. There are newer versions, but I am a creature of habit. I was using 2.42 and finally brought myself up to 3.42. You can do it too. Let's just make sure with the audio setup that our playback device is coming through the Yeti X. Good, so I can hear myself. Let's make sure the recording device is going through the Yeti X, because otherwise, what's the point? Let's hit record, and a couple of things might happen. One, I might hear myself again and again. There's a way to fix that. When you travel to Edit, Preferences, Recording, which is here, there is Audible Input Monitoring. Audible input monitoring can mess up your day. This is with Audible input monitoring on. If you're trying to read a book, you hear yourself that far behind what you've just said, forget it. Your pacing is going to be all off, all gone. This is where I am. It's not an echo. It's simply the delay of all of the applications and the processing. So again, that's Edit, Preferences, Recording, Audible Input Monitoring. That's on by default. Something else that's on by default is Linear, which makes everything you record look really tiny and pretty. And you think, oh, I'm probably not being loud enough. So you right-click this and click logarithmic dB for decibel, and then you see, oh, I am being loud enough. I'm going to select all of this and delete it. This can be made the default with tracks, and it's here. So the default is here, but I prefer this. And instead of waveform, you can look at the rainbow stuff and put it on spectro something. Now our echo is gone and I can speak about a hand's breadth from this microphone. It has a volume dial that's good both for the microphone and, get this, when you press and hold the volume button on that microphone, it will turn into headset volume, and you can raise or lower that. And then you press and hold it again, you can do a ratio between your microphone and your headphones. And I haven't gone that far because, wow, cowboy, that's some hard riding. But I have messed with shortcuts, and so before I record an audiobook, I want to make sure that I touch things as little as possible. P will pause the recording. P will pick the recording right back up. Spacebar will stop the recording. R will begin recording, but because we pressed the spacebar to stop the recording, we now have a separate clip inside of Audacity. And because I pressed P to pause the recording, it will not let me affect anything to do with that second clip. I've pressed spacebar to stop the recording, and now I can do something with that second clip. I can also do something with the first clip, and I can select the entire bunch of clips, no matter how many they are, by left-clicking over here in whatever that space is called. Why would I do that? Because maybe this part needs a little gap, and I took a breath right here, and I'd like to start it over here without mucking around too much. Why don't we just press here? I'm going to put the cursor here. As soon as I press R, like pretend this is something I didn't want to hear. As soon as I press R to record, it's already recording at the end of where I left off and pressed the spacebar, completely disregarding the selected part, which might have been the part that I wanted to go over. Aha! So, like pretend, remember ambivalence or ambivalence? Pretend that's the part that was, he knew there was no such thing as ambivalence from this villain. And now it's stuck there. How am I supposed to go find that when I make the mistake? Well, when I'm recording, please watch the computer screen. I can say, he knew there was no such thing as ambivalence for the villain. He knew there was no such thing as ambivalence. Ambivalence from this villain. Okay, so here's something else. Audacity won't do anymore by default, and it took me a while to figure this out. The red is a nice, easy identifier of your maximum decibels peaking above 0. What are they? I don't know. Perhaps it just clipped at 0 and that's that. I don't care. The reason I did it was because I want to be able to find where I said the word wrong without having to stop, erase part of my tracks, and then press R without pounding any buttons or the computer or the desk or touching anything. I just want to be able to keep going because my environment is delicate. I have not spent thousands of dollars crafting the perfect audiobook recording nest as a narrator. I'm just starting out, right? I'm not just starting out, but you might be. And this is a very interesting way. It's not my trick. I can't remember who I saw it. They had a clicker, and somehow they only got 1 click out of their clicker, but I get 2. Good enough. Let's turn on these red lines. It's view, show, clipping in waveform. Well, how easy is that? So by default, it ships this way. And that way, yes, you can see the 2 little blue lines that are there, but it's so much easier when you have a half hour of material to show the clipping in waveform as red lines. And then even no matter how far back or how small it is, the red lines tend to take up 1 pixel. So they always more or less appear, even if your track is really compressed to being so small, you can still see that red line. Bravo. Bravo, how handy. What do you do with silence? Let's record some silence. Ready? R. 5 seconds, please. Want to hear it? Interesting, isn't it? It sounded completely silent, yet there is that thunderous looking thing. I'm going to go in and see what the quiet part is. The quiet part would take 47.9 decibels to get it up to 0. The loud part what is that? 29. So silence could be at about 35 for us. Let's pretend it's about 35. So I'm going to take the parts that are 49, and that gives me about 2.5 seconds plus a little bit. I'll use effect noise reduction. I have never, ever changed these numbers. 12, 6.0, and 3. Reduce. Never changed them. But every time I grab a new sample of what quiet should be, that noise profile is then run through with those numbers. And when I select the entire project, I go back and do noise reduction as an effect again, and then click OK. It uses those numbers against the sample I gave it, and look what's gone. Now, could I do that again right here? Because has it fallen from 29? Yeah, now it's at 34. So that still isn't quite our floor of 35, where it's sort of like, even with, could it be an emergency? Probably not. It's probably just an email. That gets that. Not for this video, obviously. One moment, please. Code, secret code. It is an email. Good. Did she order me something for my birthday? Yes! You have your wife's email? Completely by accident. It was like on purpose accident. Because as an American in Germany, I can't always download apps in the European Union because everything else about my phone is from the United States. And so it's all about the stores. Okay, so 34.01 will not get us down to the floor, but I could take that whole section if I wanted to, and I don't want to. And I could say lower it 5 decibels. I can barely hear anything, but I did hear a little bit of that because I go in to touch the keys on the keyboard. Yeah, so this dark part, if you can see it, is me touching the keyboard. Fine, but that's what I said. Don't touch anything. Take off your shoes. Take your keys out of your pocket. Don't carry loose change. Get the gum out of your mouth. No hard candies. Try to avoid things that rattle on the table. I have to wear glasses because I'm one of the people who has to wear glasses. I have things that do not rock back and forth. I mean, it sounds like such common sense. I have this beneath my microphone. This is just the pad of my finger touching the table. This Yeti X, one final thought, even though it's a good investment for most people who can't afford anything at like 130 or something bucks, it's heavy, and about 80% of the weight is here in this thing, the stand. I had to put a handkerchief from a book that I'll be narrating, I hope. This author and I are in talks, and this is from a Kickstarter campaign. Ta-da! Lightning's Hand. I'm going to leave it there and see if any aspiring audiobook narrators, recorders, voiceover actors, voice actors, overs, voicers, something, latch onto the video or ask questions. But for me, that's some of the initial advice that I could give for the time being. Why wear headphones? For me, that feedback, I spent a little bit of time on the radio, that sound. On the telephone, we used to have something called side tone. You'd pick the phone up off the wall or off the table, and it had a cord going to the base, and you'd answer, and you'd hear yourself, and you could cup the receiver, and you could get real close, and you could say, no, they're still here, but the party is going on. You knew how quiet you were being because the sound came back, and that was called side tone. The minute cell phones, candy bar cell phones, slider cell phones, flip phones, cell phones, sidekick cell phones, the minute those came out, they did away with side tone, and no one could tell how loudly they were speaking. And the absence of side tone made everybody yell on the phone. So I wear headphones so that I can be sure that my reading, no matter what the subject is, from this narrator, an intimate experience. And I anticipate that the people listening to the audiobooks that I create are going to use headphones. And now for me, it's not a mystery. I know what to expect when I go into the recording and tweak it and adjust it and process it slightly. Look at me. Look at me. Yeah. I know what I should sound like. I hope that's helpful. I'll talk to you again soon. See you later. I think in the beginning I forgot to say, hey everyone, how you doing?